In this video, we're going to start talking about Chapter 4, which is on organizing and analyzing data, but the order we'll be going through the sections in is not the same as the order of the sections in the textbook. First, we're going to start with 4.2, which is on measures of central tendency. A measure of central tendency is a single value that can summarize a sample or tell us what's typical of the data. There are three different measures of central tendency. The first is the median. This is the middle value when data is arranged from least to greatest. If n is even, meaning your sample size is even, the median is the mean of the two middle values. The mode is the value or values that occur most often in a sample, and the mean is the average. Let's look at an example here. A sample of a nurse's work over several months yielded the following times needed to draw blood specimens: 10, 6, 5, 14, 6, 13 in minutes. We want to find the mean, the median, and the mode. So for our mean, we're going to add every value on our sample up and then divide by the number of values. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We end up with 54 over 6, which is equal to 9, or 9 minutes for the context of the problem. Next, we want to find the median. In order to do this, we need to rearrange all of our data from smallest to largest. So we have 5, 6, 6, 10, 13, and then 14. Now that we've arranged it from lowest to highest, we can look at what our middle is. So our two middle terms here are 6 and 10. If we had one term in the middle, that would be our median, but we have two middle terms, so our median is going to be their average. So 6 plus 10 divided by 2, 16 over 2, or 8 minutes. Now for our mode, it's just whichever value shows up most often. So our mode in this case would be 6, because 6 shows up twice. No other value shows up more than once. So talking about modes, one interesting fact is that you can have more than one mode. We call a data sample bimodal if it has two modes, or multimodal if it has more than two modes. We'll look at some examples here where we want to find the mode for each of these data sets. So if we look at set A, we have 1 shows up 1, 2, 3, 4 times. 2 shows up twice, 4 shows up twice. Here our mode would be 1, and that's because 1 shows up 4 times. And we only have one mode here. Even though 2 and 4 both show up more than once, they aren't modes because they don't show up more times than 1, or they don't show up as many times as 1. Now we'll look at set B. We see 0, 1, 2, and 3. Here there is no mode. We never have any values here that show up more than once, so we don't have any mode in this set. You don't always need to have one. Now we'll look at set C. 5 shows up twice and 9 shows up twice, so here we have modes 5 and 9. That's because the most often any value shows up in this data set is twice, and that happens with 5, and that happens with 9, and it doesn't happen with any other values, and there's no other value here that shows up more than 2 times. Now, one thing that we like to talk about in application problems is which measure of central tendency is best, or which measure of central tendency is the best representative of the data set. And that's going to depend on what the data looks like and the context of the problem. So we'll look at a few different situations. Which measure of central tendency could best describe the average grade on an exam? Maybe it's the mean. Maybe it's the median. What if the exam is ridiculously hard, but there's still a couple people who, got 100s, because they always get 100s, and they threw off the curve. So the mean is higher than what most people scored on the exam. The median might be a better representative in that case if you have something throwing off a curve, but the mean could also work. The average clothing size sold at a store. If we were to try and find the average and our average came out to have a decimal in it, or it wasn't a whole number, we know that you can't find like a size 5.3 in a store. Sizes are usually whole numbers. Or what if our sizes we're talking about are small, medium, and large? You can't even find averages of something like that. So in a case like this, the mode is probably a better representative. The median wouldn't make any sense because the median is just going to end up being some size in the middle, which may not necessarily be the best representative. Maybe larger sizes sell more, maybe smaller sizes sell more. Mode would probably be better here. Let's say we want to know the average or typical birth weight of infants. The mean is probably the best thing here because this tends to be normally distributed. We're going to talk later about what normally distributed means. Let's look at an example here. We'll find the mean, median, and mode for the following salaries at a company. Then we'll talk about which measures of central tendencies are the best representatives for this data set. So first we'll find our mean. So this is 30,000. We have that show up 1, 2, 3, 4 times. And this ends up becoming 64,000 or $64,000 for our mean. Next we have our median. These are already in order, and we can see our median here is going to be $30,000. And our mode will also be $30,000. Let's say we want to talk about which measure of central tendency is the best representative of this set. It wouldn't really make sense to say the mean is a good representative here because the mean is more than twice the salary that most people in this sample make. So most people here are making $30,000, and then you have one person making $200,000. This $200,000 throws off what the mean is. So in this case, the mean is not really a good representative. Here, the median and the mode are probably better representatives because it's, we have more people here making $30,000. It's a better representative of this particular data sample. Let's look at another example here. Find the mean, median, and mode of the following data set. What I would suggest doing, pause the video here, try to work through this problem on your own, then hit play to see me go through the solution. So first for our mean, we need to add all of these up and then divide by the number of values. So we end up with 281 over 10, and that makes our mean 28.1. Next, we'll try to find our mode. So if we go here, we can see 23 shows up twice, but then we have 15 show up 3 times. So our mode here will be 15 because it shows up 3 times. And next we want to find the median, so we're going to have to rearrange these from smallest to largest. So we have 2, 7, now that we've arranged everything from smallest to largest, we'll look for our middle terms. So if we count in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this way 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, our 2 middle terms are 15 and 23. So 15 plus 23 divided by 2 gives us 38 over 2, or 19.